Pokemon Presents was pretty exciting for me leading up to it. Not saying it was bad in any way, but leading up to it, I was pretty excited because I loved Pokemon Arceus. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just a change in combat. Maybe it was a change of how you capture Pokemon. Maybe overall the more interactive parts of the whole system that they used for Pokemon Arceus. Maybe that's what hit, but just something clicked with the game. So when we got the news that Pokemon Legends ZA was being made and it was in development, but we didn't get a trailer, I was really excited, but also disappointed because we didn't get any gameplay. And as time went on, we didn't get any news or any gameplay or really anything from the game. And that was also equally exciting because I wondered, what are they doing? How good is this gonna look? How is it gonna play? What's new? What's different? There was a lot of speculation on whether this took place in the past or is it in the future. My bet was on in the future because, well, the whole trailer pretty much had that futuristic vibe. Don't know why I said the word vibe. I hate myself right now. But you guys know what I mean. And when Pokemon Presents dropped that trailer, it was pretty good in my personal opinion. Now this time around, the starters for this Pokemon game is going to be Chikorita, Tepig, and Totodile, and I would say those are pretty fantastic starters. I wouldn't say the best, no offense to people who are fans of those Pokemon. I personally am either going to go with probably Totodile or maybe with Chikorita. I usually go with the fire-type Pokemon, but this time around, it's not really my favorite Pokemon. But Chikorita and Totodile are some among my favorite Pokemon, so I'll probably be picking one of those. Now when it comes to the open world of Pokemon Legends ZA, I think there was a lot of people wondering, how are they going to exactly get the different zones with the different Pokemon types? You know, the snowy, rocky, the grasslands, and all those different kind of zones that we usually end up going in Pokemon games. Well, it seems like the city took a pretty interesting route, and the devs too took a pretty interesting route to solve this problem. And how they did that was they're basically saying that they have certain areas around the city that are specifically made by the Pokemon trainers for Pokemon trainers and Pokemon to coexist. So if there's like an ice Pokemon or a fire type, there are areas that are built in the city specifically for those type of Pokemon. And these places are called wild zones, so we get to see a couple of them in the trailer. And we even get to see some spots where we're actually going on rooftops as well, so it seems that there's gonna be some verticality to this game too. Now I do think one problem that we might be seeing in this game that ends up happening is that a lot of these places are gonna be very samey, if you know what I mean. Sometimes games like this can run into the problem where, okay, it's the same thing, but just different assets, right? So like if there's a rooftop, instead of rooftop, it's just gonna be some rocks. And then they'll just use some rocks as a bridge to each spot. So I'm hoping there is some diversity in the way these places are laid out. I hope it doesn't feel really samey. Another thing is the combat. It's very similar to Pokemon Legends Arceus to where it's a very active combat. You can also catch Pokemon just like in Pokemon Arceus while you're out and about as well, or choose to do the combat, which is a very fun combat system. I really wish they would actually put this in the mainline series. Personally, I kind of feel like it's better than the mainline series Pokemon. And the interesting thing here is that they didn't announce a mainline series at all in this Pokemon Presents, which is very interesting because I wonder what they're doing with that. Obviously, there's going to be a mainline series eventually, so are they working on it behind the scenes? What's going on with that? But another thing that returns is Mega Evolutions, and the Mega Evolutions look fantastic as ever. Again, for the most part, and I'll get to that later. We also get a look at our rivals and the characters that we'll be playing as well, which look pretty fantastic. I would say there's nothing too spectacular about our main characters, but I'm sure there's going to be tons of customizable options, so we'll be able to customize those characters, at least I hope anyways. They haven't really showcased that in the trailer, so we'll see on that, but I hope there is. Specifically when it comes to your rivals, there are two rivals that you can get, Urbane and Tawny, and apparently according to the trailer itself, it says which character you meet will depend on the appearance you choose for yourself. So I'm guessing whether you choose to be female or male or have the appearance of a female or male. I do have to say, I do like the hair that they put on our rivals. That's very cool, and I hope we can have similar hairstyles to where they're different with that gradient on it. I think that would be really cool to have on your own character. But again, when it comes to customization with your character, we'll see on that. I think the most thing I'm excited for so far when it comes to Pokemon Legends ZA is probably the combat. I'm really excited to see like what's different from Pokemon Legends Arceus. How does it feel? How does it flow? Because I'm hoping it's really snappy and really fun and really addictive. I hope the battles start really fast as well. One of the fantastic things about Pokemon Legends Arceus was just how ingrained you can get into the game. You get into battles, you capture them or you defeat them, and then you move on to the next one. It was very just, how should I put it? There was a great flow to the gameplay. There was a great gameplay loop. That's the word I'm looking for. Gameplay loop. It was fantastic, and I'm hoping the gameplay loop in Pokemon Legends ZA is as good or even better than the other one. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in Pokemon Legends ZA is the look of the game. This is a pretty hot topic that a lot of people have been talking about online. Some people say it looks way better than Pokemon Sword and Shield. Some people say it looks really bad. Personally, I think, yes, it does look better than Pokemon Sword and Shield, but I gotta be honest, it doesn't really look too good in terms of textures, which is a big problem that I have with all of these games. And some people think it looks good. Personally, I think it just looks bad. Not the specific art direction. I think that looks pretty good. Specifically, the textures on the buildings, on pretty much everything. The character models look fine, but the textures on the overworld and just everything around the characters just looks bland and splodgy and just low resolution. And the weirdest thing is we've seen games on the Nintendo Switch look fantastic. I don't know if this is something that Game Freak just can't do and doesn't know how to do, which you would think after all this time they would figure that out, but personally, I don't even think that's it. Because if you look at like games like Pokemon Let's Go, those environments look really, really great and sharp and fantastic. Why can't we have the same thing, but with Pokemon Legends ZA? This game would look 1,000 times better if they did what they did to that, but to this with the same environment. It's just the textures. That's the issue here. And to be honest, that's really my only gripe. It's just the texture, which is something that I'm hoping when the Nintendo Switch 2 comes out, maybe they'll do a patch. Maybe this couldn't run on the Switch, or maybe they couldn't get it to run on the Switch and they had to turn down the textures. I don't know. I'm not a game developer. All I can do is say that they just don't look good. I mean, even some of the buildings, like the designs of the railings and stuff, it's just a flat texture. And I'm like, so you couldn't even build out the railings to the buildings? Like, come on, man. For me, it looks as, I may be wrong on this, but I think if the gameplay doesn't hit with me, I'm probably not gonna like this game. But honestly, I probably will end up liking this game since it's probably gonna be similar to Pokemon Arceus, and I really enjoyed that game, and I thought the same thoughts about that game that I think with this trailer. And again, another thing we have to keep in mind, this is just the first trailer. Even Pokemon Sword and Shield ended up looking better than the first trailer that they shown. I mean, take that for what you will, but there is going to be some improvements from this trailer and then the final release. How much improvements, we can only wait and see, but I mean, the fact that they had more time this time around and it still looks like a blotchy mess when it comes to just the look of the game, when I'm talking about like the textures on the actual environments, is kind of ridiculous if I'm being honest. When we had games like Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild, Xenoblade Chronicles, hell, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition looks fantastic. And not just that game, but like even just like games that run on the Nintendo Switch that maybe don't have the best resolution, but they're from like games that you wouldn't think run on the Switch at all, like Doom and Witcher 3. Like somehow we can get those games to run on the Switch, but we can't get a game with this type of graphics to look even halfway decent. Come on. And that is my rant on textures in Pokemon Legends ZA. But yeah, everything else other than that looks fantastic. And even if the textures are bad, as long as it runs well, that's the key here. If the textures are bad, I'm still gonna not like it. Again, it's gonna be a huge negative for me against the game. But if the gameplay is good, it runs well, I will be happy. Not as happy as if it looked like Pokemon Legends, not Pokemon Legends, Pokemon Eevee, but you guys get my point. So we'll see on the release.